So in September, Google made a pretty significant algorithm shift that has impacted hearing health traffic and more drastically than I've seen in many, many years. In this episode, I'm going to tell you all about it and exactly where you need to focus. My name is Ollie Luke, and this is the Business of Hearing podcast. And if you're a private practice hearing care leader that wants to grow reputation, recognition, and revenue, then you're in the right place. So end of September, we started to notice something very, very interesting initially across the practices that we work with. So about 80 practices that we were looking at the data on. And we've seen a drop in search impressions and a drop in the keywords that we were naturally showing up for on Google. We scratched a little deeper and we've seen that this exact same thing happened for every major manufacturer, every key blog related to hearing care from Hearing Tracker, etc. And then we also seen it for the likes of the CDC. We've seen it for the National Health Service in the UK. Essentially, anywhere we went looking in the healthcare space had seen a similar decline. And it was all due to Google introducing an algorithm update that they've codenamed Perspective. So look, Google roll a lot of algorithm updates out. This isn't like a new thing. They don't do it every several years. There's multiple a year that they roll out. Some are substantial and some are subtle. But Perspective has been very much focused on healthcare related traffic, money related traffic, and anything that's around a life decision. What Google typically call YMYL content, as I'll come onto. But across the board, we've seen pretty drastic declines, in some cases as much as 80%, less keywords, less impressions through Google search. So let me tell you about Perspective. And I've got a few notes here for myself on my screen because Perspective really was focused on 6 key areas as we've summarized this more and more. The first one is Google turned what they call EEAT from a recommendation to a ranking factor. And EEAT stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust, essentially. So they've always said, if you're putting content online, make sure you're talking as the expert, make sure you're experiencing what you're talking about, make sure you're the authority on the topic, and ensure that what you're saying is trustworthy. Always been a recommendation. It's now gone, okay, well, it's nice to have, but it's got to have those things for it to be ranked. It's now a significant ranking factor. Now, that's not a big deal, right? Because you as a hearing care provider, do you have experience? Do you have expertise? Do you have authority? Do you have trust? Yes. No big issue. The second thing that they introduced was low value regurgitated content took an almighty slap. So if you've produced blogs through AI, through ChatGPT, if you've taken another blog that was really good and looked to almost rewrite your version, pretty much answering the same question in a similar way, worded in a slightly different way, then Google have pretty much slapped that out the way. They no longer want you they want quality over quantity. You throwing blogs out there that answer questions that lots of other people have answered in not potentially inspiring ways, in kind of regurgitated ways, just not valued at all. And then the third one, which is the big one here, is anything that is YMYL content. And essentially that means it's in the health, money, or life decision categories. And Google now requires elite credibility to be ranked for that type of content. So what do I mean by that? If you're going to give an opinion, let's say you're going to answer a blog on your website and the question is, what does ringing in my ears mean? Google probably don't care that you're answering that question anymore. The only source they want to get that answer for, they don't need hundreds and hundreds of websites answering that. They really need one recommended website that they put at the top that feeds their AI overview, etc. And they're looking for an elite source, elite credibility. So that may mean that they go to the National Tinnitus Association to get the answer to that question, or a government source medical provider, or a peer-reviewed study from a college or a university. They're looking for elite credibility for it. And I'll come on to the reason why in a moment. Similarly, they've now started to really heavily penalize anything that's a manipulative SEO tactic or trick. So for many years, practices and businesses have been able to do a certain number of things to gamify Google, try to get to number one. And typically it's playing Google's algorithm at its own game. So it's keyword stuffing a piece of content. It's saying the word hearing loss 100 times in an 800-word article. It's buying backlinks from a random part of the world to try and manipulate Google into thinking that you're getting all these people point back to you as the authority. But these low-value, regurgitated SEO tricks, they're now getting penalized pretty heavily. We had a lot of members and we've seen like, whoa, they've dropped significantly. What's happened? And you go, okay, in 2022, they invested in an SEO promise that said, we'll get you to number 1 in 90 days or your money back, who threw a lot of these manipulative tricks at it, either got the outcome or didn't. But now all that stuff sat in the back end, these backlinks from a random source that still exist. There's a huge amount of cleaning up to do. But if you're with an SEO company that's trying to make big promises, know that if an SEO company is making big promises and they're not charging tens of thousands of dollars to deliver an outcome, I'd be very, very skeptical of the way they're trying to achieve that outcome. Because maybe they will, but the way they're doing it is not going to outsmart Google in the long term. It may be just trying to catch them through a manipulative trick in the moment. And then number 5 and number 6 is they're getting a lot more depth on local SEO. So they have a lot more context now on knowing who you are in your community, how you're connected. Dare I say, if you've been featured anywhere else, they're now getting a much bigger profile of who you are and how influential you are in that community. So a big rise of community authority. So when we look at these big things, they've made a pretty drastic impact on a lot of search. But the third one is the big one, right? The fact that health, money, or life-related content now needs this elite source and credibility attached to it. And when we review why have Google done this, I think it becomes very, very clear, because often when Google give an algorithm update, it shows you where you need to go and you run in that direction, reposition everything. They do another algorithm update, you run in a different direction. It's always reactive. But if we can kind of go, where's Google going? Where's the final chess move where they want to get to? We can get ahead of it and we can be very, very proactive. And what's very clear from my perspective is this is one of the biggest indications that Google are prepping to be an AI search first platform. Because we've seen it over the past year, right? They rolled out AI overviews that now appear in nearly 60% of all searches. The little summarized, synthesized answer at the top of Google using multiple sources to answer questions that has reduced click-through rate on Google search. We've seen them launch their AI mode in May, which has now grown to over 100 million active users, has now been rolled out on default on Chrome browsers to reach about 3 billion browsers, which is going bigger and bigger and bigger. And when we look at these updates, you think about it, this where they're looking for an elite source or a credible source, it makes a huge amount of sense, because what is AI's big risk? AI's big risk is that it will give someone bad advice, and it will give someone bad advice about something health related, money related, or significant life decision related. And the way Google protect themselves from doing that is ensuring that what's feeding their AI is only great quality content. Because right now, if everybody who's watching or listening to this wrote a blog on their website that said the way to treat hearing loss is spaghetti bolognese, what the AI algorithm will be trained is like, 60 hearing care websites, 100 hearing care websites, whatever it may be, all say spaghetti bolognese is the solution to a hearing loss. It will impact the algorithm, and AI would suggest that to somebody. But now, if AI goes, we only need the answer from an elite source that absolutely knows this with as much trust and credibility as possible, then they're safe. The AI is less likely to give someone bad health advice that could be dangerous. They're less likely to tell someone to make a terrible investment, less likely to tell somebody, and we've seen it in the news, right? AI told somebody ways to commit suicide, for example. Like, it's very dangerous if it's not trained correctly and it's not pulling from the right sources. So I understand why Google have done this, and they're getting ready for being an AI search first platform, because that's where the web is going. That's what ChatGPT have grown from 0 to 800 million monthly active users. 800 million monthly active users. Google's AI mode is growing in significance. It makes a lot of sense. This is where Google are preparing to get to. Now, is that going to be 2026 that happens? Is that going to be 2027? I don't know. But what I do know is, if we were at this stage last year right now, Google were just rolling out these things called AI overviews in a very small number of people that we didn't really know anything about. In a year, Google have changed drastically the way they operate. SEO's changed drastically. I think 2026, we're probably going to see AI becoming almost a prominent way and default way that people use the internet, because it does, in many cases, deliver a far significant better user experience. But if we look at the algorithm shift right now, what is interesting a few months on from this happening is we're seeing a few of the practices we work with becoming that elite source for some of these topics, which is great. We're seeing some that are losing traffic and losing much of the international traffic they used to get from blogs, and local search is now becoming more and more prominent, and their traffic is now down, but the conversions are stable or up because they're better engaged with local search. But Google are going to roll out algorithm updates. Algorithm updates are going to shift. And the best thing you can always do is not go, how do we gamify, manipulate? What's the trick that's going to work right now? It's how do I just be the best option in my community, build the evidence to prove I'm the best option? Because that is always what Google will want to recommend. Like, this isn't that complicated, right? Google's goal is to recommend the best option for the user. And if you can build a story, a web presence, and the proof to show that you're the best option, you don't have to gamify, manipulate. You're going to win those battles. That's what Google will always want to be. Trying to always win and get the little sneaky tactics to get to number one. It's always a short-term play with long-term risks. Playing the right game, playing the long game is the way that no matter what happens with the algorithm, you'll always be firmly ahead of it. So expect many more Google algorithm shifts. But it was an interesting, this one in September. I think it was the biggest indication that I've seen that AI search is where Google's focus is on and where they're moving towards. And we see the launch of the latest Gemini. It's becoming smarter and smarter. I think it's, in my view, becoming significantly smarter than ChatGPT. And Google are pretty much primed right now to win this long-term AI race, which is the Goliath once again winning. But it's interesting to see. And I think the way you get ahead of it is knowing this is where it's going and preparing for it, which means playing the playbook that used to work for old traditional search is no longer relevant. You've got to be building a playbook to win in AI search. And that means strong value proposition, website built to be AI search optimized, and an absolute ton of evidence. Trust, trust, trust. As always, if any of that resonated and you want to see if we can help you to implement that, then please give me a shout, drop us a comment, drop me a message, etc. Go to orange-grey.com. My WhatsApp is there and we can have a little chat from there. But hopefully that's been helpful. And as always, I'll be back next week with yet another episode. Speak to you soon.